According to reports, Jim Jones, who once walked through Harlem like a king, is crying after learning a startling revelation that is so ridiculous and crazy that even Maury Povich would have yelled, "You are not the father." Or, "Believe me, you are not prepared for this one." Jim's longtime friend and reality TV writer Chrissy has been involved in the most scandalous story of the decade. Jim recently found out that it may or may not have been smuggled out of a courtroom by, this is the scandal of all scandals, and we're going to get bold because Casey had been hiding a secret child the entire time. Grab some popcorn and buckle up because what I'm about to tell you will make hip-hop and love look like a Disney film. It's the last nail in the coffin for the Dipset dynasty, and more significantly, it's the most shocking betrayal in hip-hop history to date. How could it even happen in the courtroom that was supposed to, as Jim Jones dips at royalty in yet another celebrity drama that abruptly turns into the most horrific betrayal Harlem has ever witnessed? Questionable sources close to the situation claim that Jim has simply collapsed under the weight of reality. By that I mean completely. The cameras are flashing all the way in right now, and the whispers turn into gas that he couldn't escape with. In other words, reliable sources. Regardless of street cred or ice swagger, the rapper-turned-businessman is reportedly crying into his Louis Vuitton scarf after claiming that Chrissy, the woman who assisted him, has endured enough reality shows, label disputes, tours, and controversy, according to accounts from what can only be described as the most outrageous court appearance since Cardi B pleaded guilty to throwing shoes at dancers. The woman who essentially proposed to Jim on public television in what is still one of, we're talking about an entire child or human being who was allegedly kept hidden from Jim, the public, and probably even the love and anime creators of hip-hop. I know what you're thinking, but believe me when I say that Jim was caught off guard during his testimony by VH1's most paused moments, keeping the biggest secret aside and whose loyalty was supposed to be unmatched. Additionally, we were used to portray a dubious LLC or even a burner Instagram account concerning documents such as alleged text message receipts and your Wix's alleged paternity report, which contained Chrissy's name. It has been reported that the janitor, who was sweeping outside the courtroom, overheard everything despite having eyes and ears everywhere. Jim and Chrissy have been from the Harlem block. For those of you too young or living under a rock to remember the dipping set era, let me say that they essentially created the blueprint for word toxic, but they used breakups, makeup, and an egg to make it famous. In what witnesses called the most vicious courtroom clapback in history, Cam, also known as the petty king of hip-hop, gave you the backstory you needed to understand how nuts things got, and fans yelled, "Just marry her already." Tragic events included weddings, matching tattoos, and public outcry when the individual who chose to feed the already raging dumpster fire arrived on the scene. Because let's face it, if Cameron is in the room, something messy is going to happen. According to reports, confrontations entered the courtroom like a pink mink wearing a Grim Reaper and showed the receipts from Chrissy's bus trip. Cameron yelled, "Betrayal!" The evidence that was displayed purportedly demonstrated that Chrissy had been secretly seeing another man for years as he recklessly removed an envelope as if he were at the Source Awards. A daytime soap opera seemed to have exploded as if it were the BET Awards, and someone had revealed that Beyoncé was expecting a second child. You could hear the suppressed sobbing and gasps as Jim's entire career broke like a cheap iPhone screen. Our unnamed legal source claims that this relationship will explain why my brother Jim has been acting as though he is living in a love story when, in reality, he was the lead. Jim wore stylish sunglasses and told his lawyer, "I can't believe," like this. This isn't just some random nasty rumor that he didn't know existed after a poor drop. His most reliable companion is his ride or die, but he allegedly kept this kind of terrible secret. To put it simply, it was character assassination in the broadest sense of the word during the day. If you doubt that the courtroom was shaken, consider how quickly the internet screenshots were released. TikToks, Twitter hashtags, and fake relationship experts who one Twitter user summed up Chrissy's secret child perfectly. Jim Jones discovering that Chrissy has a secret child is the unexpected narrative twist we needed in 2024. According to reports, James vanished from public view around Season 3, when fans were busy figuring out time frames and doing intricate celebrity paternity math. He canceled all engagements, hasn't replied to any of the posts or comments. Peep Witch has only made suspicions worse because, As any investigator of fake news knows, even Cameron, who is typically the master of questionable Instagram captions, has been subdued. If history is any indication, though, I'm sure he's just stalking. Now, everyone is wondering how in the world Jim didn't understand what a man does. The judge slapped the gavel down and harshly remarked, "We are postponed until tomorrow morning until more evidence is obtained, and this is where things get complicated. Witness testimony will be given in front of cameras, and friends and haters will miss a significant secret. Is this the biggest betrayal, or is there more to this story than we've been told?" The next morning was anything but quiet, and by dawn, the courthouse was filled with reporters, bloggers, TikTok investigators, and other reporters. And everyone else. When Jim Jones arrived with his legal team and a hoodie, the crowd erupted in stunned conversation as photographers and paparazzi hurried up the courthouse steps like wild animals. Tensions were at an all-time high inside the courthouse, and he wore sunglasses pulled over his head and had an expression that said, "One thing, Chrissy, I woke up for this." The atmosphere was exciting, hectic, and undoubtedly messy, just as the internet likes it, and Cameron wasn't present. Late, dressed in a bright pink tracksuit, and exuded what could only be described as, "I told you so much energy." The judge warned everyone to remain composed and that no outbursts would be allowed, which seemed futile given the chaotic, scandalous, and gossipy atmosphere. Then came the next shocking revelation, which the prosecution supported by unnamed sources, reportedly including a hairdresser and a bitter former friend who overheard everything claimed to have unquestionable evidence of Chrissy's alleged double life. Exhibit A purportedly contains leaked private text exchanges between Chrissy and a man only identified as Mr. X. According to court documents, the two had resumed their romance around the time that Jim and Chrissy were allegedly planning their wedding. The exchanges were filled with enigmatic flirtations, discussions about private meetings, and the famous line that made Twitter go viral. Crazy? He can't know. But everyone in the courtroom gasped, including Cameron, who raised an eyebrow and said that Jim reportedly froze as if he had just been hit by a sledgehammer of betrayal. His lawyers murmured nervously as the prosecution presented their alleged mountain of evidence. Jim seemed completely bored and spent a large portion of the morning looking through his phone. Next came the apparently supporting bank records. Despite the defense's assertion that the funds were for charitable donations and private family matters, conspiracy theorists on TikTok had already harmed a child Jim was unaware of by sending sizable sums of money each month to a secret trust, established in a minor's name. They searched for strange oddities in Chrissy's Instagram posts, compared hip-hop episodes and old love tales, and even compared Mr. X's baby photos to try and demonstrate similarities when the circus broke out. A TikTok post that said, brazenly, "Look at that nose. It's genetics, babe," went viral despite Jim sitting quietly online without tweeting or even acting passive-aggressively. Nevertheless, some admirers started sharing side-by-side photos of Jim from the past and present with comments like, "This man has aged 15 years overnight. Prayers up." The comments were terrible. In less than 8 hours, more than 2 million views were received. After he posted a boomerang of himself drinking tea with the caption, "Patience is everything," things were about to get worse in court. The next witness, an old friend of Chrissy's who was protected by Jane Doe's position, claimed that Chrissy had allegedly confided in her years prior. Jane Doe accused Chrissy of protecting the privacy, saying, "I couldn't risk him finding out. It would ruin everything about an accident that resulted in a child, and she had no intention of ever telling Jim about her." Jim reportedly looked up and pressed his face against the floor, fearing that the truth would destroy not only their infidelity, but also their lucrative reality TV deals, endorsements, and public image as a couple. The rumors outside the courtroom had grown into a full-fledged media campaign before the revelation of Jim Jones's darkest secret. The defense, obviously disturbed, argued that there was no concrete proof that the alleged texts were obtained from the funds that were for charitable family assistance. The witness evidence was based on untrustworthy rumors, and the devil horns were allegedly. The courtroom was bustling with reporters typing rapidly, courtroom sketch artists recording every dramatic moment, and spectators streaming live outside hoping to catch even a glimpse of Jim or Chrissy walking. The judge announced that more witnesses would be heard the following day, including the possibility of Mr. X himself showing up. Mr. X was a friend who had become an awkward opportunist, and everyone loved it. Jim stood slowly, pulled the hood back over his head, and left without saying anything. Cameron followed him, smiling mischievously, as if he had one more surprise in store. The media called it the court date Judgment Day. 4 dips were established, and reporters gathered with signs that said, Jim. When the unverified rumor that Chrissy missed her trip to New York to testify appeared on everyone's phones, the streets went crazy as if the gods were in control. According to accounts, helicopters were already there with day 3 of the trial just hours away, and the sun setting over New York City. Please blink twice if you're okay. Everyone was worried about what to do with the increased airborne security, and the internet did what it does best: make wild accusations and predictions using screenshots and, of course, memes. The countdown has begun, and the fans had little time to wait, wondering if Jim Jones would lose not just his relationship, but his entire legacy. As the sun rose over Manhattan, the city felt heavier and darker, as if even the concrete knew that the controversy was about to break out. The 3rd day of the trial, which was previously known as the day Mr. X comes, saw television vans encircling the block and terrified faces on display as the fake specialists prepared to swarm the courthouse. Once more, people had already gathered outside the courtroom at dawn to watch what would happen, and some people decided not to go to work. Influencers from other states were broadcasting live from the steps while TikTokers were practicing there. Display. An unmarked black SUV pulled up, and when the door opened, a tall, pointed object appeared. The audience screamed, wondering if this was finally him. Was this the enigmatic Mr. X? The reporter frantically pushed microphones at him, but he stayed silent. Jen Jones was sitting in the courtroom, quietly, with his lawyers by his side. His hood was gone, and his face appeared worn out and exposed. This was not the bigger scene the judge was watching. Had gone in, so he just straightened his tie and went inside. Then, the last day of testimony started, and as Mr. X came up to the stand, the audience leaned forward as if they were watching the pieces of Harlem Hustler's life fall apart. A little later, Cameron came in, his face screaming, "I live for this mess." The ex-boyfriend's declaration that he had known Chrissy for years, and that he was going to hear the outcome of a trial under oath coincided with the Gass's assertion that their relationship had once been more than friendship, and that many years ago, following a brief but intense affair, Chrissy became pregnant and gave birth in secret. He said he had respected her wishes, but had always wanted to be involved in the child's life from a distance. The courtroom was in stunned silence as Jim Jones, worried that the truth would harm their relationship, looked up for the first time in hours and fixed his gaze on the child. Gaze on the man who had given him the truth after revealing what sent Twitter into a tailspin. He whispered, "I gave her everything," and claimed to have signed a private legal agreement with Chrissy to keep everything private, including Chrissy's monthly child support payments. However, there was a document that was allegedly so secret that Jim's own attorneys were unaware that it was real, and the court didn't have a copy. As soon as the news spread, the crowd outside erupted, and word of the trial of Chris's secret child, Mr. X, also known as Jim Jones, took the world by storm. One post featured an edited version of Jim Jones's Dip-It chain, claiming that the documents were not verified, that Mr. X was seeking no variety, and that what he had said was a lie. Meanwhile, back inside the defense, the words "trust issues" were used instead of diplomats to construct deception intended to discredit a famous marriage. But the damage had already been done, and the court of public opinion had rendered its verdict at lunchtime. Jim left the building surrounded by surveillance cameras that captured the judge's reaction to the embarrassing information presented. When the case resumed, state and federal authorities were searching for Chrissy Cameron, who appeared to be waving to onlookers and munching a hot dog as if he were walking the red carpet. There were suspicions of fraud, money laundering, and an unreported child. At the end of the day, Jim's lawyer asked the judge for an emergency delay so that they could review the new evidence and prepare a defense against potential criminal charges, because the season was already underway and the aftermath was occurring in real time. Record companies started to quietly resign their agreements with Jim sponsors as support funds started to flow like vultures. And reality TV producers debated whether to step up or postpone the next step. When the court was set to reconvene in 2 weeks, the headlines couldn't wait. Hip-hop legend Jim Jones declared victory as he fell into a career crisis, and Chrissy's child bomb show might bring down the Diapetit empire. Naturally, social media had its own interpretation. A Twitter dispute about whether Chrissy had been playing hip-hop for years was sparked by a popular TikTok thread called Jim the New Tristan Thompson. Some followers asked for forgiveness, while others believed the most spectacular courtroom. Drama in modern hip-hop history ended abruptly, but the aftermath had only just started. The following morning, the Dipset merchandise store mysteriously went offline, and she finally broke her silence by posting an enigmatic black square without a caption. However, Jim reportedly waited for a short while before leaving alone after. The courtroom cleared. Cameron reportedly passed by and laughed beneath the building. Enhanced Jim's social media silence. Jim's breath told you that no one knew whether Jim heard it or not, raising questions about whether it was a farewell, a power move, or an apology. Cameron hosted a surprise Instagram live event called Petty Wins Again, where he gave his fans a rundown of the entire incident while sipping tea. With background instrumentals playing, he concluded the stream with a story that had been in the news for weeks, and that every podcaster and couch detective blogger had a suspicion about. Last time, I didn't have to find out because legal experts shared their thoughts on all social media platforms. Fans asked whether Chrissy would be charged with fraud, whether Jim would sue for emotional damages, or whether Mr. X would now seek custody. As of right now, there are no definitive answers. Is Chrissy the ultimate villain, or is there more to this story? No one knows if Jim was caught off guard or if he survived. Jim is still silent, Cam is still Cam, and the world is still captivated by the catastrophe despite warning signs. There will be more courtroom drama leaks and receipts, so I'm sure you won't want to miss it. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. Please hit the subscribe button and enable alerts. We want to hear your most outrageous theories in the comments section below. Will Cameron ever grow? Weary of being the king of pity? Spoilers for that, is still going strong.